Welcome to Conversations from the Edge of Consciousness. I'm your host, Kristine Madera. For me, and possibly for you, the inner world of consciousness has always been much more real and way more fun than the so-called real material world. Growing up, I thought I was alone in this, but I'm not. There are a lot of us, and far too many have no one to talk to who shares this experience. I've been lucky to cultivate a community of friends who love to talk about the energies, ideas, and vibrations that are pushing the edges of our own consciousness, as well as our collective consciousness. In Conversations from the Edge, we share our conversations with you. Welcome to Conversations from the Edge. This is your host, Kristine Madera, and we're here today with Renée Garcia, and this is our first interview. It's going to be really cool. Renée's motto is, "Knowledge without application is merely entertainment," and that is so true. Now, Renée is a lifelong entrepreneur, a certified reality transurfing instructor, and an alternative space adventurer. All of these are endorsed by Vadim Zeland, who's a former Russian quantum physicist and the author and creator of reality transurfing, which is what we're going to be talking about today. Renée has used reality transurfing to transform failure into success, poverty into abundance, sickness into healing, and a bleak perspective into one brimming with joy and magic. Through the practical methodology of reality transurfing, she has also discovered fulfillment and true purpose in her life and how to connect with the highest version of herself. She now empowers her rapidly growing community around the world to do the same thing. And she's developed the only English language reality transurfing instructional program officially approved by founder Vadim Zeland. And it's this training that serves as the backbone for the International Transurfing Institute, which she founded in 2016. So welcome, Renée. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me, Kristine. I'm happy to be here and I can't wait to share more with you.
So one of the things that I really love about reality transurfing is that it doesn't really dive into what is trying to figure out what reality is and then trying to create something from that understanding of reality. It really looks at how does reality operate, and it creates a structure to operate in harmony with that innate structure. And so, I find it to be so refreshing because it's not like you've got to reorganize your whole understanding about how reality works. You just got to figure out like how to play with it. And I know that you found it at a time in your life where it was really pivotal for you. So what was your relationship with reality transurfing and your journey with it?
I like your breakdown, first of all, that it's not just a bunch of theory to completely build out a new perspective of reality. It just kind of, what I like to say, lifts the veil or allows you to peer behind the curtain. It's like in The Wizard of Oz when they look behind the curtain in the Emerald City and they see that the wizard is back there doing stuff. It's kind of like that. You just sort of
it meets reality where reality is instead of trying to like figure out a new version of reality and then try to shape yourself around that new version. It's kind of just living with reality as it is and working with it as we understand it to the best of our ability. And it takes a lot of that, I guess, moralism out.
Yeah, exactly. The one thing that I really love about reality transurfing and the community that's being formed right now is it's inclusive of everyone. It doesn't matter where the person's from. It could be, somebody living in Manhattan, somebody living in a rural village in India, right? It doesn't affect people's religion. It's not a framework that only certain people can understand. It's very, very universal.
And you don't have to be perfect to use it. It's not like you've got to strip away everything. You just have to figure out how to play with it.
Yeah, in fact, it's the opposite. Reality transurfing sort of instructs us that it's not about perfection or mastering reality transurfing before you can see some results. You get to see results immediately, no matter where you are in your life, no matter where your mindset is, where your what level of success you're experiencing, or what you feel you're lacking in your life, any of that stuff. There's nothing to master. It's about lifting the veil or peering behind the curtain and
Mm-hmm.
sort of seeing reality for what it is and taking a step in the direction of something a little better and higher for yourself. And getting to my story,
Mm-hmm.
this is really why I, first of all, saw such results in my life so quickly. And then also for me, I had a very, very troubled past and a lot of trauma, a lot of, I had a very dysfunctional childhood. I'm not educated.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of had to hit the ground running, right as I, left high school at 17 years old, early,
Mm-hmm.
sort of throw myself into the world and try to make sense of it and figure out a way that I was going to climb out of some programming and some generational spells, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of the generations before me had sort of gotten trapped into. I saw through a lot of that and knew that I wanted to do something better and higher, but really lacked basic tools and obviously basic understanding of how reality function, my relationship to it,
Mm-hmm.
how success is achieved. I was very limited in what I had going into the world, but I managed to find some success for myself professionally. At least I still struggled a lot with trauma and depression and anxiety and low self-esteem and all that kind of stuff. And I really went about trying to, quote unquote, fix myself because
Mm-hmm.
after finding transurfing, I realized that it's not about fixing yourself. It's about moving in the direction of your higher self rather than trying to work with your lower self in some sort of context where you're trying to do something with it. It's about connecting to your higher self, and that resolves all the issues that you're having with your lower self. But I went about trying to deal with this lower version of me, this stuck
Mm-hmm.
version of me, or depressed version of me, anxiety filled version of me, whatever, I felt was wrong with me at the time, through conventional means like therapy and, couples therapy. If I had a problem in my relationship, I'd go to couples therapy. I was in therapy personally for a lot of years, and I tried different things that people would tell me to do, do Bikram for, get into Bikram. I got into Bikram for a few years, doing it every day, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like trying to just like force this thing out of me. And I battled with myself for a long time in this place and feeling like I just wasn't gaining any headway. In fact, things continued to sort of decline and get worse because on one hand, I was gaining a little bit of power in my life professionally and
Mm-hmm.
learning how to do some things like raise up my lifestyle and, start to build a, a decent image for myself and all that kind of stuff. But then on the other hand, I was still feeling very lost. And I'm like, God, if
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting all the stuff that I need and I'm doing all the stuff that I need to do, why am I still so lost? Like I was just constantly searching for some kind of relief, and
Yeah.
finally this thing just completely broke in me, and I broke, and I realized that what I was doing was not the way to go about it, but I didn't know what else to do. And from a very limited place, I started to search for some answers, and I happened to find some Bob Proctor stuff and heard him talking about shifting your paradigm. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
was kind of the seed that was planted right around my mid 30s when I was trying to cycle out of a nervous breakdown of just not
Wow.
knowing how to live anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept hearing him say, you got to shift your paradigm. You got to shift your paradigm. And something in me knew, okay, I understand. I feel what he's saying. I don't know exactly what he's saying. There was something there,
Mm-hmm.
paradigm. And then maybe about 6 months later, I found reality transurfing and it clicked,
Good.
and I was like, okay, I get it now. I get it.
Yeah, because one thing I just wanted to point out something that you said that it did not let it slip by, because so much of the model for improving your life is built on fixing what's wrong.
Mm.
And we spend like, even, I mean, people who are spiritual, people who are religious, people who are neither, people who are, secular, people, all these different people all kind of have the same idea that whatever, if we want something new, we've got to fix what's broken inside of us. Like that's what's reflected to us. And a certain amount of that can be helpful so that you can have, you can learn to control anger, you can learn to, some life skills with that. But we've gotten caught in that as the path to move forward. And if it was really the path to move forward with all the work that people are doing to fix what's wrong, we'd all be a lot further along. So I love
Boy.
the whole idea that yeah, we can fix a few things here and there, but there's another way besides fixing what's broken and fixing what's wrong, and to find a different way to be that then helps to clear up the old stuff along the way. So I just wanted to point that out, that that fixing what's
Huge.
wrong is not the path to doing better. It's not the only path anyway.
It's huge. It was a huge revelation for
Mm-hmm.
me. And this is why I feel that people are listening to me now, and
Mm-hmm.
people are trusting me because I'm saying something that's different than what people are hearing. I'm a little bit of a
Yeah,
heretic in that way. Like
it's rocking the whole boat. It's great.
it's rocking the boat. It's, it's about you stepping in the direction of what you perceive to be a higher version of reality for yourself, a higher version of you.
Mm-hmm.
And in acting in this new direction, you actually resolve the stuff that your environment is telling you you've got to fix before you can have the good relationship, before you can have the
Mm-hmm.
successful career, before you can have one of the ones that I really love when I ask people in my community online, I'll present all these questions to people to get them thinking. And one of the ones that I love is, what would you love to have right now? What do you intend to have that you don't have? And I love when people say inner peace, inner
Yes.
peace. Like I can't wait until I get to that point of experiencing inner peace, or I
Mm-hmm.
can't wait until I've done enough to where I
Mm-hmm.
get to that place of inner peace. And it's like, no, 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 no. The amazing thing is you can actually have that right in this moment. And
Yeah.
then once you feel that, then your environment responds
Yes.
to you feeling this inner peace that essentially you are just not taking for yourself, you know?
Yeah, because
And,
if you're focusing on having to heal before you have inner peace, you'll never run out of things to heal. Like because your whole focus is on, I need to find what's broken and I need to fix it. I need to find what's broken and I need to fix it. And you'll always find something. It's a
totally.
never ending thing. But if you change your paradigm, like Bob Proctor said,
Yep.
and, look at where you want to go and let the rest of it kind of come along and shift along the way, like that is a total game changer perspective that could, God, make everybody's life so much easier.
It's really huge. And what we're talking about right now can be applied to virtually anything. It's a mindset. When you feel as though you are traveling towards a destination of obtaining something. And
Mm-hmm.
this is a thing that causes a lot of suffering in some of the big areas of life, as human beings experience it. One of the two of the biggest areas of our lives that we constantly feel compelled to expand or have a better experience of is of course our romantic relationships and money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's so fascinating what you said earlier about if all these conventional means actually helped, we would be further along, right? Because a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people are, doing the things that they perceive to be the things they need to do to have the highly successful career or beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
loving, romantic relationship. But that is seeking a destination. And
Yes.
when you do this with self-development, if you feel the need to be fixed, there will
Mm-hmm.
always be something there that
Yeah.
needs to be fixed. With money, one of the best things that I ever did for myself with my financial reality and my professional reality is quantify what I personally felt was the levels of whatever assets, money, income, quantify that for myself, and then go about actually just reaching that level rather than doing this thing that a lot of people seem to be doing, which is chasing after that dangling carrot, the more,
Mm-hmm.
more, more. There's never enough, right? I see it constantly in areas of love, matters of the heart, financial and professional success, and self-development. This thing that people just constantly feel like there's not enough and they've got to do more. And if you
Mm-hmm.
can stop yourself from doing this, if you can stop yourself and look at yourself and actually feel that you, even if you're not in that loving romantic relationship right now, or have the financial success you want right now, or are the person that you want to be right now, if you can just feel the essence of I'm where I need to be right now, and that is absolutely okay,
Mm-hmm.
then everything that you need to fulfill a higher order is attracted to you. It's like reversing the perspective from needing to see something happen outwardly to switching that perspective around to inward, feeling it inside internally first, and then
Mm-hmm.
you become like a magnet. You become a magnet
Yeah.
because you're not telling your world there's a deficit.
Yeah. And you're not doing all these crazy things to try to set up a situation where something happens. I wrote years ago, I wrote for it was a Valentine's edition of this magazine that I used to write for quite a bit. And of course, I always, I don't write about the ushy gushy love. I write about fun things. So I called it the wood chipper of love. And it was really about that same idea that people do all kinds of things to position themselves to fall into love, like, the way they might fall into a wood chipper, that are sort of accidental. Well, if I go to the right bar at the right time, if I go to the speed dating and do this, like all of these different things that in the hopes that they will fall into love like it's some kind of accident. But, what I was talking about in that article is if you cultivate love, if you are love, if you embody love, love will come to you. It magnetizes to you
Totally.
because it can't do anything else but do that. Now, for
Totally.
me, love was easier than money. I mean, I've had a harder time kind of doing that with money because it doesn't come quite as naturally to me. But with love, like it just made so much sense to be able to, you just cultivate that feeling of love and love finds you. So
Yes.
it's totally a doable thing. And it's much easier than all of those things that we're told that we're supposed to do. So that, and this is like the poisonous words in the entrepreneurial language is so that, like, I'm doing all of these things so that I'll meet the
Yeah,
right person. I'll do all the
totally.
things so that, I get a check for $1 million. And it's all of those things that we get caught up in. And the so that never comes because we're not looking at the result that we want. We're looking at like all the things that we're supposed to do so that that result can happen.
Totally. You nailed it there. And also, in addition to that,
Mm-hmm.
when you feel that you are loved, or you
Yeah.
feel that you are wealthy by your own standards in that moment. And you can really feel gratitude for the love you can feel for yourself, not to
Hmm.
sound totally like granola or woo woo here or something, but like when you can really just resonate with feeling like, okay, I've got everything that I need right now. And
Hmm.
I may not be in the most perfect romantic relationship or a romantic relationship at all, but I have enough love for myself. This is my biggest one. The cool thing is when things don't work out
Hmm.
exactly the way that you intend. I mean, that all shifts around anyway when you start just focusing on growing those sensations internally on your own.
Hmm.
But when things don't work out exactly the way you intend, you're not left feeling devastated. You're
Right.
like, you're always at ground zero. You're not walking through your life feeling as though something's missing. And I think this is where a lot of people are right now, is like that.
Yeah, because we're taught to rise and fall with what we see in our external world. And that, if things are going well, we feel good. And if things are going poorly, we feel bad. And we look at that as the barometer of what's true and what's happening and what's reality. But that's not really what it is. And that core of reality transurfing flips that on its head about
Totally.
how to create that reality and to not react so much to seeing things other than how you desire to see them. So let's get back to you for a moment, though. How so you found reality transurfing at a really pivotal time for your life. What because back when you found it, it wasn't really a thing so much. It was out there, but it wasn't like it's rising in popularity now. It's really becoming a thing that people are hearing about and doing. But you kind of found it sort of by accident,
Yeah.
and you had to cultivate this thing from. And how did that work for you? And what did you do first with it? And how did you decide that it was something that really had value?
Well, my personal experience was that I encountered the knowledge purely by chance. I mean, I was just scrolling something on Instagram and saw the words pop up in the comments on this artist that I was following, her feed. Somebody just asked in her feed,
Hmm.
on a photo, have you heard of reality transurfing, or what do you think of reality transurfing? And I've tried to explain in the past what happened to me when I saw those two words. It's
Hmm.
very challenging because I've never heard someone else explain something, finding something and it doing what happened in that moment, what happened for me.
Hmm.
And the sensations I felt in that moment were unlike anything that I've ever felt before. And I've never heard anybody say that they've felt anything similar. So
Hmm.
it was a very odd experience.
Hmm.
It was just kind of like I saw the two words and I could feel that instantly the words were connected to every aspect of my life until the very end. It's almost like there was a thread running from that moment, what I could perceive to be my entire life, but it
Hmm.
happened in a second. You know what I'm saying? Like it just,
Yes.
I can't, it very difficult to describe. And the words themselves almost looked different, like they had, like the letters were from another place or something. Like it's very challenging for me to try to explain. And but I can remember the feeling that I
Hmm.
had in that moment, and I still feel it today.
That's great. And I,
It's
I kind of get what you're talking about because I've had certain things like that, not quite as dramatic as that, but like I'll talk about like this ding, 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 ding. Like something, it's like of everything I look at, it lights up. And I'm like,
yes,
that has significance. And I
yes,
might not know what it is, but I need to pursue it and
yes,
explore it and find out more about it because there's something there for me that's really,
yes.
really,
That
important. So I
was,
get that.
yes, and not only important for me, but I could feel something much bigger happen in
Mm-hmm.
that split second. Something I could just tell that there was something big, unlike anything I had felt before. There was something big about ready to transpire. So I immediately put the words into Google, and an audiobook popped up on
Mm-hmm.
YouTube. And I was taking long walks at the time. I had left Los Angeles, a life that I had lived for 15 years, and I had moved to Portland, and I was just kind of coasting. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do, what I was doing. I was, just sort of waiting for some information. And I was taking these long walks at night where I would go walking around for, I don't know, 10, 15 miles,
Mm-hmm.
3 or 4 hours. And I started putting this audiobook on. And I think it was a combination of being out of my normal environment, which was Los Angeles, being in Portland at
Mm-hmm.
night, lots of trees, and sometimes it was raining, and I would walk around. I probably did this for a few weeks, but I just saw my world transform before my eyes into something that suddenly looked like, and I know this is going to give a little bit of insight into how dismal my perspective was pre-transurfing, but I
Uh-huh.
started to see the world as something I actually wanted to be a part of.
I totally understand that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
was like, and also too, some of the concepts that were in transurfing, I just felt this huge relief, this weight come off of me that had been
Mm-hmm.
weighing me down for so long. And I suddenly felt like I was just on this pink cloud. And I had this boyfriend that I was there with that was really a negative person, but I was allowing myself to be sort of sucked into that vortex of
Mm-hmm.
negativity and arguing and all that. And then once I found transurfing, it was like it didn't affect me anymore. His moods, his mood, his shifting of his moods, his negativity that he was projecting in my direction,
Mm-hmm.
all of that, it was like I suddenly had a like a force field around me. And
Wow.
anytime any negativity came from him, it was almost like I was even higher on my pink cloud, because I was like, this is, I've managed to gain control of my environment. It was amazing. It was amazing. And then I just started to realize, like, why everything had transpired the way that it had,
Mm-hmm.
why I had my nervous breakdown, what I had done right in my life that had helped me to gain some success, why I was feeling empty, just all these
Mm-hmm.
questions started there was answers forming right in front of my eyes. And
Wow.
yeah, it was amazing. It was really just an unbelievable shift in my paradigm, as Bob Proctor said, and I got it.
Mm-hmm.
I totally got it. So I did this for about a year.
Mm-hmm.
I was off and on with transurfing. I would listen to the audiobooks. I bought the books. Things would be going well, and then I would sort of take it for granted, and I'd kind of fall into my old mindset. And I'd be like, "Hey, wait a second, why am I in my old mindset? Transurfing was working so well for me." So I'd listen to the audiobooks again, and then it would all come back to me, that pink
Mm-hmm.
cloud vibe. And I went through this for about a year, and finally I thought, there's got to be a way that I can make this my permanent state of being, my permanent
Mm-hmm.
worldview. And I just sort of realized one day, in this moment of total lucidity and kind of taking responsibility for transurfing. I know that probably sounds a little bit weird, but I realized that it was me
Mm-hmm.
that was to bring this to the masses, that it was me that was going to bring this out, that it was unheard of. There was no community, there was no online resources. You could find very, very little about the book on Wikipedia. It was a short little paragraph,
Mm-hmm.
and that was it. There was the audiobook, and that was it. So I decided that I was going to, at the same time, make this a permanent state of being for me, and bring this to whoever was in a position to accept knowledge like this, as powerful as it was. And this has been 6 years now. I've now completely adopted this new worldview that is really just so far from anything that I ever thought would be available to me.
It's one of the beautiful things about reality transurfing is because it takes everything you've ever learned and it turns it completely around. And we're going to dive deeper into kind of the nutsy boltsy things in later conversations. But I wanted to ask you before we lose this part of it, this stuff had been out for a while before you got involved in it. And like so often, these very profound transfer, like society and world changing transformational things come to the surface and they kind of flounder for a while because nobody's thinking about it, nobody's hearing it, people aren't ready for it, the world's not quite ready to take it on, and it takes a little while for things to gain traction in our thought forms and our ideas and our allowing to be able to receive things. But the guy Vadim Zeland who created this, he was creating this in the early 2000s, wasn't he? And he was a
Yes.
quantum physicist. Can you tell a little bit about him and how this came to be?
Vadim Zeland is a very elusive character, as you can.
Yeah, because there's nothing out there about him. Yes,
There's very little. Yeah, there's very little about him, and I've developed quite a close relationship with him over the last 5 years. And I've met him in person. I'm going to meet him in a couple months. I'm going to go back to Russia and actually spend some time with him this time.
Nice.
Which is, very interesting in being so elusive. He's not what people think he is. I know he's regarded as a Russian mystic, and he is in a lot of ways, but he's a lot more than that. And also at the same time, a lot less than that. And I know that sounds kind of weird. Like, why would you say that about him? But he really is. We have a lot of parallels, him and I. And I think that's why he appreciates me the way that he does and why he supports me, is because he's the same as me in the regard that we're just people, we're not, and I know I've been a little bit put on a pedestal in my community, which makes me feel kind of weird and uncomfortable because I don't want to be the focus of the movement. I want the knowledge to be the focus. And it's the exact same with Vadim. That's why you do not see him. That's why you can't find pictures of him or information on him, is because he does not want to be seen. He wants the knowledge to be seen. I'm in a position where, when you talked about the knowledge floundering for a few years, the reason that I think it did flounder initially and why it is taking off now is because what the knowledge needed was a vessel to show the world, look, this is what you do. This is me. This is me before. I'm very candid and open about my past and my troubles, what I've experienced in my life, and how reality transurfing has transformed that experience. Vadim did not want to do that, and I have been willing to do that.
That's good. It's often not the person who brings it forward that's the person that takes it beyond. It's often like a relay race in some ways, that that it comes through and then that's that person's job, and then the next person takes up that mantle and moves it forward. And so it's wonderful that you were able to do that and bring it out. But I understand wanting to keep the focus on information. And it's interesting you talk about it as a Russian mystic, because what I read about him was as a quantum physicist and a scientist. And so those two things are beginning to become more intertwined now that spirituality and science are coming together in the kind of quantum form. But how did this come about for him? If you can explain that, like how did this get revealed to him and through him to be able to verbalize it in the world and kind of bring it to a state where other people could at least access it?
So what happened is he had quite a bit of standing professionally
Mm-hmm.
before the Soviet Union collapsed.
Mm-hmm.
That's when he was in his quantum physicist lifeline, as we say in
Mm-hmm.
transurfing. Lifeline is the reality
Yeah.
you're experiencing. And that's when he had some greater success. And then I gave him an interview. We did an interview together last year, and
Mm-hmm.
he told a little bit about what happened after the Soviet collapse.
Mm-hmm.
That he essentially lost everything, lost his career,
Wow.
lost his standing, and he recalled when he took a job at an abandoned railroad station to protect it
Mm-hmm.
from, I don't know, people burglarizing it or something.
Wow.
And his job was to walk around at night with a gun and make sure that nobody went into the thing,
Oh, good
And
Lord.
yeah, and that was his, I think that was kind of his lowest point in life.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, he started to get some different types of jobs, but still a lot lower than what he was used to. I think he
Mm-hmm.
said that when reality transurfing came to him, he was working in a computer programming sector of banking or something like that, a
Mm-hmm.
corporate job. And he was busy a lot. He didn't like the work. And he started to just receive these um these concepts during work, and he would go into the lunchroom on breaks or whenever he could take a break, and he was writing out what later became the book in a non-linear kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
And then they pieced together his writings at a later time to
Oh,
form
wow.
the actual book in a
Mm-hmm.
cover to cover sort of way. But he says none of the knowledge is his.
Mm-hmm.
It's all just downloaded directly from what we call the alternative space and the
Mm-hmm.
transurfing modality, which is the framework for reality as we know it. It's the vast infinite space where all knowledge comes from, and ideas, and everything that has been, is now, will be in the future. It's the quantum field.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he was just chosen. Really, he's a very unassuming man. He doesn't command, even though he's very quiet. But when he walks into a room, everyone stops. You know what I'm saying? It's
Mm-hmm.
like he doesn't command attention on his own, but the presence of his character absolutely does. But
Cool.
very soft spoken and very humble. One of the most
Mm-hmm.
humble people I've ever met. And you can tell that there's something about him that is truly unique, something that you do not see in other people ever, like rare beyond anything. That I've never met a person like him, and I've met a lot of people.
Okay.
Something's there,
Yeah.
what that thing is, I have no idea.
Well, and I think we see this in different people at different times, when there's an idea that wants to come through, that's ready to come through. And, we see it with like the inventors who invent the same thing, who've never met each other, who are on different continents at different times, but they invented it at the same time because there's ideas that are ready to come through. And
Yes,
it's when somebody is willing to say yes, or somebody is willing to receive that and is well matched and well suited to that. Because somebody who wasn't a quantum physicist might have had no understanding of the basics of that kind of thought to be able to bring something like this through. And so
absolutely.
being that person that can actually receive that level of information and bring it through, I mean, it really requires you to show up to your life in a really particular way, and to
Yes.
be able to say yes to something that is totally outside of your experience or your perception of reality. So I'm glad that he brought that through, and I'm glad that the two of you got together to bring it through even further. I wanted to just wrap up this conversation. I want to jump into a new conversation on our next talk about more of the nutsy boltsy things, or at least one or two of the ideas in there. But if there's anything that you wanted to say specifically about reality transurfing, as just that we haven't talked about, that would give people just a little bit of an idea, just right now before we close,
Mm-hmm.
so that they can have a context when they start looking it up, because I'm sure they're on Google now
Yeah, yeah.
looking for more.
Well, I mean, the newest translation of the book is 800 pages, so
Wow.
and that's where I come in, right? I'm trying
Mm-hmm.
to help people connect with the concepts without having to, so not everybody has the time or the ability to sit down and dive into an 800-page book. It's a little challenging to sum up quickly, because there is the different concepts and different ways that you could look at the knowledge, but really what the bottom line
Mm-hmm.
is that we have an infinite amount of information and different versions of reality that we can tap into.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much more beyond us than what our minds are able to perceive. And reality transurfing are the tools
Mm-hmm.
that help you move around to different variations of reality and different variations of yourself, right? Because
Yes.
just as much as a lot of people say that reality transurfing is a new way of saying quantum jumping, or accessing parallel realities.
Right. It's kind of
It
an all-encompassing philosophy that that brings
Yeah,
all of those together, though. It's not just one
totally,
little idea. It's it's
totally
it's amazing. It's a real and it's not
comprehensive.
thank you. The word, yeah, comprehensive. And it's not that difficult in the sense of, like, as a philosophy, the biggest leap for it is really, letting go of the old paradigm and opening up
Totally.
to the idea that reality is completely different than what you think it is, and that if you learn how to operate in it the way that it is, instead of all of the ideas and thoughts and beliefs and judgments that you bring to it, like, it
Yes,
can be, your whole life can be completely different.
totally. If you are able to acknowledge that there is a different or higher version of reality that you
Mm-hmm.
could possibly experience, or a higher version of yourself, um, and be willing, and this is the part that trips a lot of people out,
Mm-hmm.
but be willing to also accept that everything that makes up your current worldview is
Mm-hmm.
just one of the infinite choices available. And
Yeah.
you could just as well adopt a new theory for yourself, a new theory
Yes.
about your reality, and then have a
Mm-hmm.
completely different experience of it. And this is why people are learning from me and also being entertained by me. I'm a walking display of this, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
6 years ago, I was coming out of an epic nervous breakdown,
Mm-hmm.
right? I was lost, dysfunctional relationship after dysfunctional relationship, not knowing I was nobody
Mm-hmm.
that anybody should come to for advice on anything. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
in just 6 years,
Mm-hmm.
I'm teaching people how to really, really transform any part of their life using this knowledge. And I'm showing people how to do it through practical application myself. And I
Yeah.
can honestly say that I've got a lot of answers for people now. And the reason that I am in this place is because I have used reality transurfing to surf myself to this version of reality where I am this version of me, and
Yeah.
it's it actually works. And like you said, it's not hard. Like, it's not
Mm-mm.
hard as long as you obtain the ability to say to yourself, reality may not be what I
Mm-hmm.
perceive it to be in this moment, that there's
Yep.
another
Yeah, because
version. Yeah. And if you can
what
do
I like
that,
to
then it's wide open.
it is because what I like to say is, reality is what it is, regardless of what you believe it to be, and it's your beliefs about reality that limit you.
Oh,
And
totally.
all of those are just
Absolutely.
made up. So
Yes.
if you're willing to accept, and it's a hard accept, that everything you believe is true and real is just made up, and none of it's really true and real in the absolute sense, then you have the freedom to be able to choose something else. But it's that divesting of all that we have held onto as true about ourselves, about the world, about how the world works, and about, who we are in it and our purpose and all this kind of stuff. There's layers and layers and layers and layers and layers of it. And so, it can be a big leap, but if you're willing to make the leap, God, like life can be completely different.
Totally. And it's when life starts to get fun. It's not exactly experiencing that different reality. It's
Mm-hmm.
standing at the threshold saying, really? I can
Yeah.
have whatever I want? Like, how can that be? Right?
Yeah.
If you
It's
follow
that,
this
yeah.
formula, you get to choose. You absolutely
Yeah.
get to choose. And that is the wild adventure.
It really is. I think that's the adventure of our emerging adventure as human species. So oh God, it's been so much fun talking with you, and I'm looking forward to our next conversation. And I want people to know that you can find a whole bunch of links for Renée and for Transurfing on conversationsfromtheedge.net under her bio section, or on the webpage this is on, or under YouTube, or under Anchor, wherever you're finding this. But also, is there any particular place that you want to send people and give them a link or two so that they can find you right this moment if they don't want to look it up some other way?
Sure. You could start by going to transurfing.us. We have a bunch of resources on there. You can get the books on Kindle, or you could access our various social media that we have. Lots of different resources for learning the knowledge. YouTube channel with, I think it's close to 650 videos now. I have no idea
Yeah,
how I
it's
actually was
huge.
able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's the audiobooks on there, free
Uh-huh.
audiobooks if you'd like to listen, and lots of videos of me talking about how to apply these concepts practically to nearly every aspect of your life and reality.
Yes.
For support, we have a Facebook group, the International Transurfing Institute Facebook group. It is lively and lots of people from all over the world. It's a very universal group. It's an amazing support network. If you're just finding the knowledge, we have super advanced transurfers on there, coaches, certified coaches. I'm on there. I'm active and do my best to give everyone, advice and a breakdown if you need it. Instagram, reality_transurfing, and the course on Teachable. I have a full comprehensive course. It is powerful and people have loved it. It's been out for about a year now. It's called Reality 2.0, and that's on Teachable. And then we have a private Facebook group for support if you are in the course and have specific questions about the course. So we kind of have something for everyone, from totally free to you want to dive in head first. And we try to, provide you with exactly what you need to get you to where you need to go. And it seems to be working for a lot of folks. So I'm feeling pretty good about my offerings, and invite anyone into the community, even just to ask some questions and see if, it might be a path you want to go down.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you. And there's a lot out there. I was watching Transurfing TV on YouTube, and it's fabulous. And I can't recommend it enough. So, if you haven't already looked it up, check it out. And you can find all those links again at conversationsfromtheedge.net. Thank you, Renée. It's been wonderful talking with you, and I'm looking forward to our next conversation.
Likewise, Kristine, thank you so much.
This is your host, Kristine Madera. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation from the edge of consciousness. You can find all our conversations at conversationsfromtheedge.net. You'll also find links to schedule a private conversation with me or any of my friends, as well as tools to help you expand your own consciousness and explore what's possible for you outside the boundaries of your current perceptions. Feel free to use this podcast to start your own conversation by sharing it with friends, on social media, in your blog, or even in your own podcast. And as always, live the adventure of pushing your own edge. It's the most amazing adventure there is.